Hello again, it's Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage area and talking to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetrack. I am Steve Post, lead pit reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief, Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. Come off a great Gateway Worldwide Technology Raceway St. Louis race. How about that?
Yes, exactly.
But what a great race. 300 miles, but it was action-packed, jam-packed. Saw guys all over the racetrack. We saw a couple have issues. We saw a Cinderella story come forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That track widened out.
Oh, my goodness.
It got really, really wide, and it got really, really racy. The battling before they both had the problems, Blaney and Bell.
What a great race that was.
I mean,
and Bell finally cleared him, and Blaney crossed him over and passed him back. Like it was, Bell was the fastest car.
No doubt.
You look at just raw speed, they were the fastest car. I don't know who wins that battle. They were putting on a heck of a show. I was, as I'm watching it at home, because I wasn't part of the broadcast this weekend, but just really feeling like, can this really go on for another 20-some laps?
I thought as soon as Bell cleared him, I said, game, set, match. And then it's like, never mind. And it was fascinating. I was watching the crowd. This is one of those you never leave. You never leave when the race is over. I'm watching the crowd. As soon as Bell clears and gets a little bit of an advantage, you see people start to pick up and go. And then during the final 10 laps, they're all exiting. And it's like, I'm like, there's people in their cars that think Christopher Bell won this race. There's people in their cars that think Ryan Blaney won this race.
And there's people in the grandstands that know that Austin Cindric won the race.
Did win the race. Stay to the end, folks. Stay to the end. Listen to the end. You're never going to miss it. The win for Austin Cindric, and we're going to talk to Brian Wilson here on the program. Career first win as a crew chief. We love when we talk to new winning crew chief and the Cup side. To me, the key to that thing is they were strong all day long.
Yeah, they didn't fall into this. They led 53 laps. They ran in the top 10 almost all day long. There might have been a couple laps that they were outside the top 10 through cycles, but I thought, they won everything. They did everything they needed to do this. They started on the front row with a great qualifying effort, especially with the draw that they had. They went early in Group A and still were put up a really, really big time. So they made it, started on the front row, ran the top 5 most of the day, executed what I thought was a race-winning strategy, 3-stop, and it'd be interesting to talk to Brian about how that kind of came to fruition, but they 3-stopped it. They were in front of Ryan Blaney on the racetrack before the last stop. Actually, Jonathan Hassler shorted the 2-car, Austin Cindric. He shorted him by a lap and had a quicker pit stop, but ultimately didn't have enough fuel in the car. So they cycled themselves back out in front. I thought Austin did a great job. I thought Wilson called a great race and put themselves in position to take advantage of others' failures. Yeah,
no doubt about it. When we look at running position, or average running position, Christopher Bell was 4.3. Okay. Austin Cindric was second, 5.61. So to your point, they were up front all day long.
Yes. Yeah,
when you average a 5.61, you're running at the front of the field all day long.
Yeah, it's solidly in the top 10 all day long and put together a great race. So a place that, that you had to shift and we had to go forward from. So interesting to see what all happened there. Just how the race played out for him. Austin's a good road racer. He has that background in him. So I think the shifting and being able to shift, a lot of the guys using third gear this year, not just fifth and fourth, but actually double shifting down. So, not surprised to see him do well here, but great momentum for this team, put themselves playoff eligible now. I feel pretty confident that we're not going to see 16 winners with what we've got left. Right. Locked in, take some pressure off them. Going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend.
Yes, really, truly is. And the other fascinating part about it, and you mentioned this, qualified second, Kim Kuhn talked to Austin during qualifying. We had rain in the area. And Austin was like, he busted that first lap, and Austin, and when storms are moving through, we actually might have had one quick caution for some drops.
Actually had a combined practice to shorten that time because we knew rain was coming.
Right. So. And so Austin is like, man, we need this thing to stand because he'd have been way back in the field.
And you would have to call a different race from back there. Brian Wilson would have had to. It worked out in their favor to get the qualifying in, to show the speed they had, put the weekend in perspective.
It really did. And that's funny you say that because Austin in Victory Lane, I said, how important was qualifying? He said it allowed Brian Wilson to call the race to win the race instead of having to try to play catch up all day long. So great stuff. We will talk to Brian Wilson here in just a little bit. A couple of other attaboys. Shane Van Gisbergen, of course, I'm excited to see how this goes because we're watching something really, really special here. Picked up the win out at Portland. Bruce Schlicker from Colleague Racing, his 8th career win, 4th different driver he's won with, but it was really cool to see SVG get that win out of Portland.
Yeah, definitely there. And Corey Heim, they put the race together. It was Heim time again at St. Louis, and they weren't as good in qualifying, made good adjustments. Really, really excellent race for him.
Yep, Scott Zipadelli, 22nd career Truck Series win, tied for 5th on the all-time list with Jeff Hensley. So when you're tied with Jeff Hensley in the Truck Series,
you've done a good job.
You've done a good job, that is for sure. So we're going to step away here real quick, and when we come back, Brian Wilson is going to join us. We'd like to remind you to make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Wherever you're listening to this, wherever you're watching this on, subscribe, like, and share, and spread the Crew Call gospel to all the people that are following along in your journey, and we would be grateful for that. We need to step away. When we come back, Brian Wilson, he joins us next. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Todd Gordon and Steve Post, and let's go to the Zoom line. Joining us from up at Team Penske, a first-time winning crew chief in the Cup Series, Brian Wilson joins us. Hello, Brian. How are you?
I'm great. Obviously, yeah. It's been a fun couple days. Really fun enjoying this and celebrating with the team.
Is there something that jumps out? Someone that reached out, one moment? Is there something that stands out here 48 hours or so after this that really stands out after getting that career first win as a crew chief?
Man, it's obviously, you get text messages and calls from whether it's Roger or Walt, all the guys here in the shop. It always means a lot to me when the veterans reach out, like the old guys that have been at Penske forever, when those guys make a point to stop by the office and say, hey, listen, you did a good job, right? Like that means a lot. I've had a lot of text messages from guys in the garage, other crew chiefs, crew members I've worked with, even all the way back to Bill and Frank Kimmel. I've heard from those guys. So, you kind of hear from everybody. It's great.
So as we look at it, congratulations. And you didn't fall into this one. You guys ran in the top 10 all day long, led the second most laps, actually put a perfect weekend together, which is what it takes to win today. Most of the year, you've been teetering around 20th. What's different about this weekend?
Yeah, I think obviously Gateway's been a strong one for Team Penske, so we had a great notebook to look at. It kind of falls into our wheelhouse, some of the strengths that we may have as a company. But there's no secret. Like this season has been a struggle. I think, you know how it goes when you're down, you work hard, man. Nobody likes to be there. And we've been making gains behind the scenes. I think Roush Yates has done a good job. Ford's done a great job. We've been making gains. But it was one of those weekends where, Saturday went really well. And Todd, I think we've talked about this in the garage a couple times where our Saturdays have been decent. And I've really been trying to put together full weekends and how do we start the race well and execute the whole day. So execute the whole weekend, really. It's the first time we've really kind of put that together. Pit crew did a great job, had a great pit stall, able to hold on to track position, be aggressive on, the pit strategy. It all kind of came together for us,
So many things I want to dig into in that comment. I'm going to start from the beginning of it. You brought up, that Roush Yates has helped you out, that Ford's helped you out. Do you feel like Ford is caught up now, or are we at a string of racetracks that kind of play into the Ford program?
Yeah, I think there are a string of tracks that definitely play into it, but there's no doubt we've made gains. We've closed the gap. I feel like past few weeks, Blaney's been able to run really well. He had some misfortune, but, you look at Charlotte, he obviously was a top 10 car. So we've closed the gap. I don't feel like we have any advantages, but we've closed the gap for sure.
I want to go back when we had qualifying on Saturday. We had all that weather, and Kim Kuhn, our co-broadcaster, talked to Austin, and he was doing every rain dance, praying that everything stayed dry. It did. I asked Austin about qualifying and the importance of it, and he said it allowed Brian Wilson to call a race. Can you tell our listeners and our viewers what that means when Austin says you're allowed to call a race when you start in the second spot as opposed to wherever you would have if we'd have gotten that rain or if you'd have been toward the back?
Yeah, absolutely. The other part of that interview, I love that he said, what do I need to do? Well, this is all about bravery. I was like, all right, well, it sounds like it's on you, buddy. Go be brave, right?
Yep, no doubt. Yeah.
He did a great job with that. It was great qualifying effort for us. Obviously a great qualifying effort for Ford. But yeah, it really gives me the opportunity to just call the race. We've already got track position. I don't have to be creative to create track position. We've already got it. We've got a great pit stall. It's a very narrow pit road, so we were able to pick on the turn one side of things and get ahead of that. Give my guys the best opportunity. They've really been making gains in the pit department. Our guys are, breaking into the top 10 in a lot of the rankings that we look at. So they did a great job. They held the track position. It allowed us to really look at it and lay out how we wanted to control the race. Another thing, when your car is close on Saturday, you're not worried overnight about what big changes do I need to make. I can focus on the strategy and how I want to call the race.
So as you talk about that, the three stop, the team, Team Penske, all three of you really committed to it. There were a couple other Fords I thought did as well. Was that a plan ahead of time? Did that kind of play out as the day went on? Where were you on that three stop strategy, and when did you kind of implement that?
Yeah, so another engineer that you know well, Joe Bisson, does a great job of looking at all the history of what works well and what has not worked well. We had a meeting on Wednesday where it was first brought up that, hey, this could be an opportunity. Sunday morning, we all got together once we knew the lap time fall-offs, and it seemed like it was a real possibility as long as our cars held on well. Even once we called it in that stage, though, I kind of had a contingency plan. If we started to fall off too much, when could we pit? We noticed that the guys in the first stage flipped it at 35 laps, so that was kind of the window that I was comfortable at. We went a little bit longer than that since the tires held on, and obviously worked out for us.
So, and I want to build off of that. Yep. Your last pit stop, it was a little bit, you came, before you had that last pit stop, you had track position in front of Ryan Blaney. Hassler brings Blaney to pit road a lap before you, pulls off a 10-1 or something pit stop. You guys had, I think, an 11-8 by what NASCAR publishes. But did you wait on fuel to make sure you were in a better position, or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, so honestly, that goes back to two stops before that. We knew how much we needed to finish the race. I was telling my fueler, Andrew Lackey, exactly what we needed. He had done a good job on the previous stop of getting us the fuel we needed to kind of hit the windows, and I told him to do the same thing again. Now, the pit stop was a little bit slow. We didn't execute that as well as we needed to, which in hindsight was kind of a benefit. But Andrew had done a great job of getting the fuel that we needed on that stop. Hassler kind of got me on that one. He definitely disguised his play and pitted a lap before. I wanted to cover it. So we were a lap later than him, which, that typically gives up about a half second of lap time. So, I wasn't surprised that we were equal with him, but yeah, definitely was interesting how that played out.
I want to dig into that a little bit without getting too deep into the Team Penske, and I'm sure it happens with Hendrick and Gibbs and everything like that. You guys all work together, but it's interesting. You just said Hassler kind of fooled us there and shielded some stuff. Does that boil into Sunday afternoon? We're all kind of independent people, and what is it? What is game and what is not game?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's there's no team orders. We share information. We have the meetings like I talked about. We all talk about things and are expected to be open and don't hide what you're thinking. But then once we're in the race, it's game on. We're trying to beat each other. We're trying to one up each other. We're obviously very competitive, and I've had a long relationship with Hassler and Wolf and Jeremy Bullins. We know each other well, but we all want to beat each other.
Yeah, you look at it, your history, I just want to put this back. This is your first Cup crew chief victory. You won a championship as a race engineer for Paul Wolf in 2012 with Brad. You've won Xfinity championships with Austin. Lots of winning in your history as you come forward. This win, how does this change the outlook for the rest of the regular season and how you race coming forward?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is for my group, it's a lot of young guys in positions. Obviously, like you said, I've got a long history, but I'm fairly young in my Cup crew chiefing career. So what this does is it validates our process. So I think that's the first thing is this win does not change our process, but it might make us more brave to try some things. You mentioned that we've got practice coming up this next weekend when we go out to Sonoma. Well, we're going to try some things. And if something's kind of questionable, like maybe this will work, maybe it won't, let's try it. Let's go. Even weekends when we don't have practice, we may show up with a setup that's a little bit different than what we've run. It gives you the flexibility to try a few things and be a little bit brave.
So I want to expand on that, kind of get into the Sonoma piece. You've got a 50-minute practice, and it's before race inspection this weekend at Sonoma. The only challenge, the caveat that I looked in the schedule, is you get that 50-minute practice. You've got 2.5 hours before the garage closes, and inspection starts 30 minutes after garage opens. So how does that temper what you're able to change? Because I would assume you've got to figure out how to get your car ready for inspection that 2.5 hours afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You've obviously done this before, right? You've got to consider half hours, right? If we show up with a geometry that's questionable, do the guys have enough time to really get that done? Some of the geometry changes would require you to drop the floor, drop the diffuser, or, get in there to change things. So it could take a while, and it could change kind of the settings of the floor or of the body of the car. So those are all things that you've got to weigh out and think about when you're showing up there.
Big picture going to Sonoma, new asphalt. Of course, you're going there with Austin Cindric, who's pretty good on those road courses. What do you expect we're going to see? What's your best hunch as to what we're going to see out there as far as the speed goes and what that means of all the challenges you'll have?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Austin obviously is very good on road courses. He's good at learning very quickly. I think he's going to adapt really quickly to the track. Speeds seem really quick out there. I think that's going to put strategy at the forefront. You're going to have track position and call a good strategy. It's a great opportunity having 3 sets of tires to be able to practice and see where that goes. But you're really not going to get a long run because of that. You're going to throw the tires at it and evaluate your changes. So to me, that's the question mark, is where does the long run go? Does any of the drive-off issues that you used to have at Sonoma, do those show up? It seems like from the testing, it really hasn't. But once you get everyone out there, the best of the best, really of using the tires, where does the tire wear go and where does the fall-off go?
Yeah, definitely. And then the piece that I've heard anywhere from 3 to 4 seconds faster lap times there, which we need to listeners, that's a lot of miles an hour. Do you think that pushes the brake zones to be different? Will the brake usage be bigger? How we adapt for that from historical notes at Sonoma?
Yeah, so that's interesting. We talked about that as well. You think about turn 11, the braking zone there, you're going to be carrying more speed, so you have more downforce. Does that give you enough grip to where the braking point is actually the same? Are you actually just braking at the same spot but using more peak pressure? That's definitely something we're going to be looking at. And how does that, you have to be good in those braking zones if you want to pass somebody. So what does that do for you?
What do you see different about I'm sure you're looking forward, but what do you anticipate? Do you think the passing zones will change up? Is there different places it will be emphasis as you put this speed to it? What do you anticipate out of Sonoma?
Yeah, I anticipate that 11 is still going to be a high action zone. A lot of passing there. I think you're obviously going to have to create the runs through the S's to get to that point. I'm hearing that there are some bumps into turn 4, so maybe that braking zone creates some opportunities. And a lot of the runoff areas have not been paved. So like where you used to run off in turn 4, how does that affect the drop transition there? It's going to be interesting.
Interesting, that's for sure. And the NASCAR Tour even continues to be interesting, because when you get done at Sonoma, you come back across the country, but go back across the country. Just the challenges of this time of year. Now, you're car loaded for Sonoma on Monday, if I understand right. But what is the dynamic of all of the challenges of logistics here over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely creatures of habit. We like our routines, and this is definitely out of the routine with the win, but that's obviously off the routine as well. A lot of things, I get to talk to guys like you, right? So it's great. Car's already gone for Sonoma, but we're talking about the practice plan. And then for Iowa, we're actually doing a swap out. We're going to swap out the cars. The haulers will stay out there. So those don't have to leave until Wednesday next week. So that's normal for us. But for the hauler drivers, it's a little bit different. You got to think about those logistics of what do you have to take out there.
Neat stuff. Really, truly is. That is for sure. And has to be just an amazing time. Yeah, a lot of non-traditional things with the scheduling, but winning a race is pretty good as well. That is for sure. Brian, just so happy for you personally. What's your dad's take on this?
Oh, man, my dad's just so happy. He was one of the first people to call me. He's got a birthday this week, and he was like, man, that's the best birthday gift ever.
Yeah. The backstory on this is that at one time, Brian's dad and Brian were one of the first two engineering father-son teams. Dad was an engineer back years ago, Robert Presley on the Skull car, and I know you and your father are tight, and I thought about him when you won that race. I thought that was cool. So, yeah, really neat. Kudos to you, Brian. We'll look forward to see what you have in Sonoma, and thanks for joining us here this time on Crew Call.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
There we go. Brian Wilson joining us here on Crew Call. Stay with us, more in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. First wins, always special. 2013 Michigan, your first win. What stands out to you? You win in Michigan is big, but what stands out now years later?
That I learned a lot out of that win. I was miserable in victory lane because we were testing Richmond the next day.
Oh, really?
I was trying to figure out how I was going to get springs out of the car. When I finally got home, I'm like, you just want a cup race.
Yeah.
Enjoy the moment. That was a teaching moment to me that, you shut everything off and go enjoy it. Yeah. And from there forward, I did. But, really cool. And that was a situation, we were good all day. Kind of like Wilson was this weekend. And with Austin, I think, they did everything they needed to do. I'm really happy for Brian, a really good guy, a great leader. And I think that chemistry between him and Austin will continue to mold forward. They're doing things right.
Yeah, they won 13 times together in the Xfinity Series, and they won a championships over there. So, I mean...
And just about won a second one, but got booted and turned... Which they should have, but...
Yeah, exactly. So so their history is really, really strong. A lot of times we'll spend this portion previewing Sonoma, but Brian gave us so much. I don't even know where to begin this week in Sonoma. What else do we need to keep an eye on?
The piece, and I didn't get to ask him. We try to keep this to we ask their time is pretty precious. So... The piece I look at is we'll recall this race backwards. We're not going to have the big lap time fall off. So now it becomes, okay, from the end, I can go 42, 43 laps. I'm going to back that up from whatever it is, 110 back, and that puts me at 68. And then if I come back but I've got a caution in there, so that I might come back 45 laps from 68. That puts me at 23, which is 2 laps before stage 1. But am I making that kind of mileage, or am I going to make... We don't know what kind of mileage they'll make. So these crew chiefs are going to have to kind of look at practice and figure out what they think their mileage is, and then watch their mileage during the race to try to understand how aggressive they can be on that piece. I feel like guys are going to have to make that decision on stage 1. Are they going to short pit it and try to go along and be on full save? Or are they going to get stage 1 points, but that may bury them for stage 2? I think the opportunity is short pit 1. You'll get stage 2 points because of I think this is a 2-stop race. I think anybody that wins this race is going to be on 2-stop.
We talked a lot with Brian about the car and the challenges of the racetrack. Joey Logano spent some time in the media center with us on Saturday, and he talked about the stress and strain on the driver with the extra speed, the extra Gs. He talked, Sonoma a lot of times was, tiptoeing down into the corners, tiptoeing up out of the corners. He said, what is it going to be like just having to death grip on the steering wheel all day long? It's going to be interesting to see how this impacts the drivers as well.
Well, not only that, and Wilson brought it up, I hadn't thought about this, but with the runoff areas not being repaved, so you're going to go from grip to none. And in some places that I think drivers are used to just using up, it may change up how we need to be. Do you need to keep your right sides on that grip as you come down turn 4? Or how does that work out? It's going to be interesting. I do wonder whether we'll have any brake related issues, because the braking zones, I think with the amount of grip we're adding with new asphalt, braking zones are going to be bigger events.
Going to be huge. It's going to be fun. It really, truly is. And just part of this fun part of the season, we talked to, we have Sonoma, then we have a brand new asphalt in Sonoma, brand new racetrack for everybody in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nashville, Chicago, Pocono, Indy. Ay.
Yeah, this summer swing is very unique. A lot of unique racetracks that don't really apply to the playoffs, but they sure do build momentum towards the playoffs. It's going to be fun to watch how teams respond to the summer swing.
And a lot of points on the line over the next 7 weeks.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Good stuff. That is for sure. Our friends at the Performance Racing Network have all of the covers, NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series out at Sonoma. We're going to take a little bit of a pause here. Gives you a chance, though, to check out some of the great programming that we do have on Motor Racing Network. NASCAR Live, our Tuesday night tradition. NASCAR Live Wide Open, wherever podcasts are found. NASCAR Coast to Coast, where we talk to all the racing NASCAR roots drivers. Wing Nation, we talk sprint cars. And, of course, Crew Call here. You can find us wherever podcasts are found. I'd like to remind you also, NASCAR Live presents 2004 Chasing History, our podcast series as well there. So while MRN is a little bit quiet this week, there is plenty still to find if you just search and find all of our great programs here on the Motor Racing Network. We appreciate Brian Wilson joining us here on the program, but more important than all of that, thank you for joining us here this time on Crew Call.